Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues. With this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 6 of the anime series, Violet Evergarden. And this this was kind of an underwhelming episode to me. Very much par for the course, status quo. Not much room for evolution or anything like that. Not nearly as much evolution for Violet herself as I felt we got in the previous episode. She's just kind of, the same old, same old. We're introduced to Leon, and with that being his name and his sort of, like tsundere looking down and just not making eye contact and all that stuff, kind of reminded me of Squall Leonhart in the Kingdom Hearts games. He's known as Leon, and that kind of made me chuckle. Some of the opening animation reminded me once again of Princess Principal. Aspects of the story kind of, with the observatory and looking at Allie's comet, supposed to be Halley's comet, somewhat reminded me of the anime Galilei Donna, which I really enjoyed when that was on, and I think I covered it in episodic reviews. And, it was just kind of meh, very melodramatic. Again, very same old, same old. I think the reason I found it so underwhelming, if I were to attempt to, clamp it down, as to one particular reasoning, it's because where we left off with the previous episode, we had Violet stepping off a boat or a train or whatever it was, and there was this really hateful, spiteful, seething character ready to just ream her 6 ways to Sunday for all of her bloodthirstiness and how lethal she was, how much of a weapon she was, and all this stuff. And I thought this was going to be really intriguing to play into and to find out more about. It was, I was given the heads up by one of you guys in the comments that this was probably the Major's brother, as we had seen him in a flashback previously. He was integral in hooking, Violet up with the Major in the first place and everything, and I had completely forgotten what he looked like, and so I was that much more excited, like, oh, this is his brother. I had speculated, oh, is this going to be like a love interest, filling in the void of the absence of the Major and Gilbert and all that kind of stuff. With it's his own brother, so there's a poetic aspect to that. And instead, we get something else completely and utterly different in this episode. Not a single hide nor hair of any calling back to that in this episode. Like, it never happened. If it hadn't been attached to the end of the episode, I wouldn't have batted an eye at the beginning of this one, where we get none of that, where we harken back to none of that. I thought maybe, okay, well, we've once again sidelined, and by the end of this episode, we'll call back to that again, and we'll leave off with another cliffhanger, and that's going to be the next episode. This was just a sideline, on her journey home or something like that. And it's just, I'm beginning to sort of unfurl my frustrations over how they are doling out this story. I have come to understand, per conversations in the comments, that all of the episodes previous thus far were anime exclusive in the majority, not really adapting the source material. This episode, come to find, going over to My Anime List's forums on the episode to see that I wasn't crazy, that they just, I didn't miss something, and they just did not call back to that end cap on the previous episode. I needed to make sure of that. But come to find, some people are talking about this is actually adapting straight from the source material, like chapter 4 of it, or whatever, something along those lines. And I saw some people being like, well, if this is them taking from the source material, wow, the source material is really bland and melodramatic and cliched. And I have to admit, I'm fighting agreeing with all of those summarizations watching this episode. Even though I could identify to a point with Leon and his frustrations over not being able to really interact with people, and especially as someone who has lost my parents early in life, and the way in which you could say strife and war took his father's life. His mother went out in search of him, just feeling lost in the world without, her companion. in his father. I mean, then she never returned. Who knows what happened to her? I mean, it's sad. It's really sad, but it's just kind of checking all the boxes of the melodrama. You know, been there, done that 1,000 times over. And I didn't really, you know, I was offset by not picking up with where we left off. And then as we're introduced to Leon, and he's all tsundere, and he's all not making eye contact, and then he's awestruck by the beauty that is Violet. You know, for a titular character, she leaves a lot to be desired. She's never in focus. And what I was building to say, what I meant to, you know, sort of stray off into saying, as far as the unfurling of my frustration, per the dialogue, years have passed. Violet's been traveling, according to her, you know, her own words in this episode, she's been traveling for years doing this as an auto-memory doll, an auto-memoir doll. News to me. Where did all the time go? I had said in my discussion video of the previous episode, I was getting the impression that time is past, you know. Her evolution as a character is happening off screen. Time is passing in between episodes that we're not experiencing. And that's what I want to be experiencing. I want to see the growth and evolution of her character. And that is the one thing that's absent in the majority, in the most part, as far as the focus is concerned. And unlike all of the previous episodes where the focus was not solely on Violet, they irked me that much more because as somebody who is an aspiring writer, somebody who loves and enjoys reading, when you know I can put all of my focus on that, I was captivated by the initial idea of why all the auto-memoir dolls were called into this observatory, that they were going to, you know, sort of retake down a lot of these old texts that were becoming dilapidated and were going to be lost to time. Assuring that they would live on for future generations. These concepts and histories and experiences and all these kinds of things were going to live on because they're forging documents anew. That was captivating to me. And then the carpet is drawn out from under me as I settle into that being the scope, the grandiose scope of the relationship between Violet and Leon and what they're doing. It was done and over in a couple of minutes. And the focus was then shifted off to their little melodramatic back and forth. You know, people making fun of him for no reason. Oh, he lost his parents. His mother was an entertainer or whatever, a dancer, a gypsy woman. And so it's uncouth that anyone like him or break bread with him and don't get between a man and his bread because he strangled the hell out of that French roll. When he's just about professing his love to Violet, or trying to, you know, basically, you know, ask her on a date, sort of, to see the comet once it's overhead, since it's going to be 200 years before we ever see it again. And oh, isn't it so sweet how he begs the question in the end, you know, will I ever see her again? Maybe it won't be like, you know, until the experience of the comet. You know, you're not going to live that long, numbnuts. So yeah, this episode was just kind of meh to me for all of those mitigating factors. Once again, it looked pretty good. At least I didn't have much of an issue with the you know, poor visuals, the filtering over it and looking like I'm trying to, you know, pierce through a muddied lens, like I've said in the early going of this series. Which was probably down to the file transfers and everything like that, where I watched it. It looked decent enough, but it's lacking depth. It's lacking personality. You know, you're watching this video. You may be completely disagreeing with me, and that's perfectly fine. But it just seemed so cliche and so been there, done that, and there are other places where this has been done where it was much more captivating and entrancing and engrossing. And because of all the missteps, the time that is unfurling as the story goes on, where we're not experiencing anything, things that are happening off screen. I mean, we start this episode and it's just completely its own thing. Never mind what was at the end cap of the post-credits scene with the Major's apparent brother raising hell, raising his ire in the face of Violet, which for my part would have been a hell of a lot more interesting to pick up with. But no, none of that. We have other characters, like background characters that are introduced briefly that say hi to Violet, and I kind of sort of think maybe I recognize them, but I don't think I was like, who the hell are they? And I see in the comments over on the forums, oh, they showed up at one point in one of the episodes, or maybe the source material or something. Nice seeing them again. Who the F are they? Like, who cares? Why should I care? Violet has, grown, kinda, sort of, according to them. Like, they're really happy with what she did with the princess in the previous episode, the letter writing she instigated. Okay, alrighty then. Who the F are you? Why should I care? Where are the other girls? From her HQ, the apparently anime exclusive characters. Well, I guess that's why they haven't been called back to ever since, because now we're taking from the source material. They really need to figure out how to have their cake and eat it too, because it feels like they're all over the place right now to me. We're not picking up with what we set up plainly and clearly at the end of the previous episode. And all of this was just, cliched melodrama that we've seen time again. So, that's really all I gotta say, man. It wasn't a wholly, unenjoyable episode. There were aspects to it that I enjoyed. I think my enjoyment of it really kicked in once Leon and Violet, for all intents and purposes, once the job was done and she was leaving. And even then, to a point when he's standing on that precipice as she's on the sort of trolley, the sort of wire-hanging trolley thing, being taken away, and he's yelling out to her, are we going to see each other again and everything? I kind of enjoyed that. Like, the way it was, the cinematography of it, the way it was animated, the way they had directed those scenes. But everything else, it was two end caps for me. First was the burgeoning fascination I had with this idea of recounting this literature so that it would not be lost. I was really heavily invested in that, and I found that to be highly, highly intriguing. And then it tapered off, and it was not the focus. And then we had a lot of this malarkey that filled up all of the in-between segments of the episode. And then the end cap of Violet leaving and sort of smiling to herself. Oh, we got to see some emotions. She kind of sort of in her dialogue with him, realized, what loneliness is, that she's been feeling lonely. She just about is told to her face, well, you must love him if you're willing to die for him. And you count your own life as worthless without this guy. How many years have you been traveling? You have never seen this guy again, the Major. You've never seen him again. And you're still living. You found other ways to live. And you're holding on to this hope that he's out there somewhere. And it's through his grace that you're alive. But you've never seen him again. So at some point, doesn't the intellect have to sort of say, well, maybe he's not in the world anymore. Maybe I need something else to live for. A directive, hold on to them. They're still always going to be with you, the memory of that person. But I mean, even at this late stage, with all of the self-professed, according to Violet herself in her dialogue, time that has passed, years she's been traveling, and years, and she's only now just figuring out, having to be told, baby-fed, that she has loneliness for this person. I can't be the only one going, what the hell? Otherwise, that's really all I got to say on it. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of this particular episode, episode 6 of Violet Evergarden. 2 thumbs up. Not. And all of that. Otherwise, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well. Hope the next episode's a lot better than this one. But who knows? and I'll catch you later. Peace.